Hi, everybody, and welcome to episode 15 of the Dr. Psych Mom Show. Today, I am going to be talking about what men really want in bed, because I just spoke about in the last episode what women really want in bed. Now, a lot of people would think that men find it easier to communicate what they want in bed, but those people would be wrong. And in fact, in the couples that I see, while men may have higher sex drives, at least 2/3 of the time, they don't really say much of what they really deeply crave in bed because they are scared of seeming gross or needy or, perverted or any of these things to their wives. The worst thing for a man is being sexually rejected. I mean, it's bad for women too, as I discuss. And within a long-term relationship, a man feels that if he offends his partner by asking for something that she finds disgusting, he is going to be banned from sex. I mean, this doesn't happen. But, it's not like you say, hey, you know what, I would really like to 69. And she says, well, that's it. I'm out. No more sex for you of any kind. You disgust me. That doesn't actually happen. But more anxious men within a marriage where sex has been an issue frequently worry that somehow their wife will just lose steam and just turn off to him if he asks for the wrong thing. So what is the first thing? There's going to be 6 things, by the way, 6 things that men want in bed, because I'm even Steven with the What Women Want in Bed post, which had 6 things. So the first thing that men really want in bed is foreplay. So this is a great misconception that men just want quickies. I don't know any. In fact, I always have women in my sessions that are exhausted that say, why can't we ever just have a quickie? And the guy's like, well, I mean, a quicky's nice sometimes, but, that's not really what, like he doesn't really want to have a quickie. The only time when men really want quickies is when it is within the backdrop of an otherwise fulfilling sex life that has lots of variety. Then a quickie can be for variety, for excitement, if it's, somewhere where you might get caught. But the average man does not in any way want a quickie. He wants a long experience involving foreplay and potentially multiple orgasms, at least for the woman, but hopefully for both. Depends on his age there, if he could eke one out, another one for him. But either way, he wants to have a long experience. So this is the number one thing that men, particularly men with a sensual love style. So you can take the erotic blueprint quiz that I reference in many of my podcasts. And if the man has a more sensual style, he's going to really want a lot of foreplay. The next thing that a man wants is to please his partner. Women are consistently very surprised when I turn to a man in couples counseling and I say, what is more important, her orgasm or your orgasm? Her enjoying herself or you enjoying yourself? And they say her orgasm, her enjoying herself. That is what is most important to me. Most men get off on their partner's enjoyment. And for a woman to just lay there like a deceased starfish submitting to sex is the biggest turnoff, and not only turnoff to men, but it's also very demoralizing and really does a number on their self-esteem to view your wife sitting there like, laying there like something dead that doesn't want to be there, that is just trying to power through this experience. So they want to please their wives, but as I discuss in other podcasts like the previous one about what women want, a lot of women don't really know what they want. They know this ain't it, but they don't know what it is that would be better because either they haven't had a lot of experience or they have never found themselves with enough courage to say something, or they don't really know what they want. Remember, women do not research sex as assiduously as many men do. Now, unfortunately, most men's research comes in the consuming a lot of porn variety, which doesn't actually teach you how to please an actual woman, which, circles back to the original problem here, which is that it can then be the blind leading the blind. The woman doesn't really know what she wants. She doesn't really know how to have a better experience. The man is doing some stuff out of porn that seems like the woman on the TV likes it, or the phone nowadays, and doesn't work for his wife, and it's really a frustrating experience. This is why it's so key for women to try to understand their bodies more so that they can tell their partner what they like, as well as for men to research, other techniques and other ways of understanding women. Refer back to my previous episode about what women want, so that the woman can in fact be pleased. And this number 2 can come to fruition. Now, number 3 is imagination and variety. Most men do not want to be doing the same thing all the time, even if it is, the position that they really like. Even if it's oral sex, they don't want to be doing the same exact thing every time. Nobody really does, a man or woman, but people with lower libidos will find some sort of comfort in the fact that they know what's coming and it'll be over soon. This is not the average higher libido man. He doesn't want it to be over soon. He wants to explore, to feel creative. He wants the same sort of creative experience that he thought that marriage and relationships would be when he was a younger man, where you explore each other's bodies and figure out what each other likes and try a whole bunch of new things. Now, like women, men also want number 4, which is sex as a stress reliever or a respite from the banalities of daily life. Work often sucks. Your kids can be annoying. There are money problems, health issues, and what have you. Everybody struggles with these things after the age of, 20-something. And sex can actually be a very good way to bond and relieve stress on a regular basis if both partners think of it this way. So men don't really know how to articulate this to their wives. They don't know how to say, I want to be in a special world, just the two of us. If they said something like that, the wife might like it. She might think that was romantic. But instead they say, want to go upstairs? And nobody really wants to go upstairs that bad when they are being pursued in a way that they find to be boring or half-hearted. But if they knew how much their husband wanted to really make their sex life into an escape, a respite, a haven, and someplace where you both please one another and you are close physically and emotionally, then women would get on board with this as well, because this is something that many women crave too. People do not just want to be, parents and employees. They want to also be sexual entities and to have that whole part of themselves there. They don't want that part to die. They want that part to be accessed on a regular basis. At least many people want that. The next one is a confident and assertive partner. Most women want a confident and assertive partner, and men are no different. Men's fantasy is of a woman taking charge so that they can finally throw off the, this burden of having to figure out what to do in bed. Women talk a lot about emotional labor, but men frequently do a lot of the, quote, emotional labor in the bedroom, because the woman's with a lower libido, she's kind of like, well, shit, I don't want to be here as much as you do, so you make this happen. If you took your husband to paint and sip night, you would act pretty enthusiastic about painting and sipping because it's not his thing. Well, in the bedroom, if it's understood in your marriage that sex is, quote, his thing, not yours, then, both people can fall into this trap where the husband is thought to always then have to initiate, because after all, he's the one with the higher libido. While I understand that pragmatically, and men definitely I encourage to initiate if that is what your wife likes and puts her in the mood, if they have to always initiate, and if they are, again, like the blind leading the blind, because the woman never tells them what they're getting right or wrong, and they have no feedback, and they have to initiate a sexual encounter which they're not even sure if she likes it at all, then this could be pretty, again, demoralizing, which is kind of the adjective for, unfortunately, for many married men's sex lives as a whole, demoralizing. Now, you don't want that to be your husband. That sounds sad. So not open-mindedness, that's spoiler, that's going to be the next one, open-mindedness. But if you are take charge and even a little bit more dominant in the bedroom at times, not like all the time, like sometimes, then that can be a lot of variety, which will hit that button. And also it'll make him feel desired. Men really want to feel desired because if they are in the situation where they're known to be the higher libido partner, then you get to feel desired, but they don't really get to feel desired ever in that situation because they know that you could take or leave sex. And what's the saying? Whoever cares less wins. So you win as a lower libido partner, and it's no great prize. You know, it's an unhappy husband and a bad marriage, or a marriage that isn't as strong as it could be. And now the last one, although I'm going to go back and flesh some of these out, is open-mindedness. A man does not want to be shamed for his sexual desires or his preferences, and nor do women, of course, but men frequently have thought more about their sexual preferences and desires, being as they have innately higher libidos a majority of the time within monogamy. And so they don't want to say something like, oh, I really would want to try tying you up. And the woman's like, ew, gross. No, what am I, a prisoner? This is the 21st century. Like, no, like that's a little bit much, and that's shaming. And that makes somebody feel less than and inferior and sad and lonely and all of the things that portend a not very good sexual encounter or relationship. So this is why open-mindedness is key. Now, the one thing that I would say that women really do not understand about what men want, and this goes back to the whole foreplay thing, the misconception that men don't want foreplay, is the idea that men do not want there to be tenderness or care in bed, and that they just want fucking. So they don't think that men want the tenderness and the I love yous and the stroking and caressing that the women themselves want. What I call this is love and care fantasies. Love and care fantasies are actually what men in my practice seem to want the most. So they want a woman who takes time and tells them that they love them and says that they're attractive and makes them feel desired. Most men do not get to feel desired during the sexual experience at all. Most of it is them telling the woman how desirable she is, but the man himself never gets to feel that he is wanted. So I can link you to my love and care fantasies post. This is what many men yearn for, but they feel really embarrassed and stupid saying that they want something that seems so not masculine. Now, of course, it's masculine. The same women that are staunch feminists and say that gender roles are all fucked up usually have a little harder time when the man is being vulnerable than they would really ever admit. So even if intellectually a woman believes that both men and women should be vulnerable and should be taken care of, it's a little bit harder to do it in practice when women have been trained by the exact same, quote, patriarchy that men have been trained on. And that includes this idea of a man as always very strong and able to take care of the woman and not really need any care in return. So in bed, a man is then supposed to be very confident and only want to, engage in very energetic physical encounters with a perennially hard erection and not really need any sort of reassurance and never to be the object of the attention, rather the woman to be the object of attention. This is all the idea. Porn is like this, and this is the idea behind, men that say that they want love and care fantasies. It's because it goes against this trope, and finally they get to be the recipient of feeling adored and desired, and they can be vulnerable themselves. They don't have to
be doing to, rather they could be the recipient of having somebody engage in loving touch to them, with them being the object. This is why men like oral sex so much, which I can link you to that post as well. Women seem to make this all about domination, and rarely is it about domination. It can be about domination, but listen, I'm 40 years old. Most of my listeners are around my age. Either way, we're not teenagers. Don't listen to them. I mean, really, honestly, the thing that most men say to me is, man, I wish you could talk to my young son, 20 years old, about what to look for in a woman. So I misspeak. If you're a young person, you really should be listening to this, although I would probably have to be on TikTok saying this stuff for them to listen, but maybe one day. Either way, what I'm saying is, for young men that have grown up on internet porn, there's all this choking and all this stuff with blowjobs that older men are really not as into. That could be okay for variety, but the idea behind why men who are married tend to want oral sex, men who are in their 30s plus, is not for domination as much as for attention and focus and love and tenderness, and a woman really trying to do what you want for a change. And it really is for a change in marriage. If you speak to many married men, they do not get to do a lot of what they want to do. Women say they don't either, but there are different areas in which both people don't get to do what they want to do. And usually women are the gatekeeper of what goes on in bed, because they're the gatekeeper of whether sex happens at all. And so men don't really get to have sex be as much about them. They're supposed to be just happy to have it at all. And when you're supposed to be just happy to have anything at all, you kind of get less happy over time. Just like if you say to your kid, if they're whining and complaining about dinner, and you say, well, you should be happy to eat at all. Yeah, you have a point, but that doesn't make them love dinner when they didn't love dinner before. Same thing with sex. If your husband is asking for oral sex and you say, well, you ought to be just happy to be getting laid, well, yeah, you got a point, I guess. It's not a real marriage, strengthening point, and over time will be a marriage eroding and bitterness provoking point. So this is why men have fantasies about somebody finally doing something that they want to do. Also, this goes back to the fact that men were always supposed to be just lucky to get laid. And so throughout their lives, it's not like before you when they were young, they had all these women that were just trying to meet their needs. There usually is a period where like a woman is more trying to audition and her adrenaline is pumping and her hormones are pumping. This is called the honeymoon stage. But even in the honeymoon stage, most men are not, they're still supposed to be getting lucky. That's the phrase. You don't say that a woman is getting lucky. You don't say, oh, I hope I go to the bar tonight and get lucky. I mean, if you're a woman, you go to the bar, you want to get laid. This is not a matter of luck. This is a matter of asking somebody. Whereas for men, it's getting lucky. Okay, fine. But within intimate relationships, a man's dream is that it shouldn't be like he has to beg to get lucky all the time. He hopes that went away. It's just like masturbation. Most women don't realize that the majority of men find it very shameful to have to masturbate repeatedly within marriage, because the way that they viewed marriage was that they would not have to do that anymore. That would be a relic of their single years, one that they don't particularly want to revisit. So it would just be the idea of masturbating within marriage to many men is like the idea, or high libido women find it just as shameful. If a high libido woman is supposed to be married, she thinks that she's going to be having sex when she wants and not having to rely on a vibrator. So this is not to shame anybody for masturbation, merely to alert people who are lower libido to the fact that masturbation is not a surrogate for sex in the eyes of a high libido person. In fact, it is considered by many to be like, what in the hell? Why do I have to be doing this if I have a partner that I love and we're supposed to be trying to please each other and we're supposed to find each other attractive? So this is, could be its own podcast series, is the misconceptions about masturbation and its equivalence low libido people frequently say, well, to the partner, well, why don't you just masturbate? Because it's not about that. It's not about a physical release. It's rather about the expression of tenderness, of love, of desire, of approval, of acceptance. None of these things can be done just by masturbating. And in fact, with porn, you can get yourself into this dream world where you do have an endless parade of women who look approving and accepting and desiring, and all that's going to do is make you more addicted to that fantasy world of porn and less invested in the relationship. So it's bi-directional. I tell people, stop masturbating, stop using porn so that you could focus on your actual sex life. But then in their actual sex life, if the person doesn't want to be with them, well, then what? Then you ought to get into couples and sex therapy is then what? But most people just get demoralized, go back into porn. It's a vicious cycle. And I could talk about that ad infinitum. Anyhow, back to the topic at hand. I frequently, go off on tangents like this, but there will be enough podcasts eventually that I can explore all of these topics in depth individually. Anyhow, the point here is that men want to be desired and treated as an object of desire and love and somebody who deserves attention physically, emotionally, and sexually, the same as women do. And so this is something to understand about why men want foreplay and why they want very different sorts of interactions in real life than the quickie that is offered. And my analogy in the post would be, what if a woman said that she wanted to go out to dinner and have a nice date night, and the man drove at breakneck speed to the restaurant, nearly killed them, yelled at the waiter, got the meal instantaneously, encouraged her to shove it down her gullet as fast as she could, raced back home, relieved the babysitter, then turned to her with a smile and said, "How'd you like dinner? How'd you like date night? Isn't that what you've been asking for?" No. This is a quickie to men. That's the equivalent. That's not what they want. They want the long experience, the same as the woman would want romantically. Now, if you're a man that does not offer this sort of date night, but then expects a long, drawn-out sexual experience, well, then you're a fool, right? I mean, you gotta give some to get some. And this is why I frequently exhort men to up the romance game if they want the woman to up the sex game. People are just people. Nobody's out to get anyone. There's bitterness in relationships, yeah, but usually if one person moves forward, the other person will also move forward. It's really hard after this beautiful date night that, let's say, a man planned and was so romantic, to then be cool even in your own mind and with your own conscience about never having sex with him or having sex with him in some resentful manner. You don't want to do that because the guy's being nice. He's trying, However, if you've been asking for a date night for the last 15 years and the closest you get is the drive-thru and he never calls a babysitter and you've never gotten flowers in the past 2 years, then are you going to really be up for giving him a 1-hour blowjob because that's his fantasy? Hell no, obviously not. That does not take me to tell you. Why would that woman want to get out of her comfort zone at all? The man certainly isn't. So it takes two to tango, which is the really the upshot and the theme of everything I talk about in couples counseling. It's never just one person is the problem. That is a fantasy. That's a fiction. Two people. And either one of those people, by the way, could be the one to come forward and really change the tenor of the relationship, whether it's sexually or emotionally. And I'm done with this topic for now. I'm sure I will come back to it. But I did look at my analytics, and half of my listeners are men, which I guess would not be a shock since I talk so much about sex within marriage. But about 2/3 or 3/4 of my blog readers are women. So I was pleasantly surprised. So thank you to all my male listeners. Thank you to my female listeners. And of course, as I always say, if this resonated with you, share it with your partner. maybe people are really doing that. And maybe that's why I have half men and half women that are listening, because people are listening and sharing this podcast with their partner. I don't think it's too long. I try to keep it bite-sized. I am escaping from my kids right now by recording this thing in the bathroom, which is why it's going a little long, because I do like my alone time right now for this second, but I will have to end and go back to mommy duty. And I wish you all a great Martin Luther King weekend, and talk to you guys soon.